Hey guys, this is Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, and when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today, on the second iteration of the Gaming Gig video podcast, we're talking about the pros and cons of PC gaming.
So, we have some different lighting today because we had some lighting issues.
My light strips broke.
So if you don't like the lighting today,
Neither do we.
yeah, we're going to plan on going back to the old lighting, or at least what we did in the first video, as soon as we get it fixed.
If Amazon comes through, we should have it by next time.
Yeah, so that's our plan. So that's why if lighting looks a little funny, there you go. If you like this lighting better, let us know that too.
We'll still probably switch back, but yeah, let us know.
So, man, it's been a big week for gaming for me in terms of what I've been playing. I've been playing a lot of Arceus lately. I'm very close to the end. Mm-hmm. That's been fun, but it's a little grindy.
Yeah.
And I don't really like the grind that much. But in bigger news, this week I finished Ghost of Tsushima. I think it was this week. No,
man, that was
last week. No, what did I finish this week? I finished another game.
You finished Human Fall Flat last week too, I think.
No, I finished a big game this week. No, I finished...
You finished...
Let me think. What could it have been? It was a big game. I finished a big one this week. No, it was Ghost of Tsushima.
We're super prepared.
No, it was Ghost of Tsushima.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. It was.
Okay.
It was.
Maybe I just know you've talked to me about it, and I was thinking you've talked about it on the podcast.
No, I think last time we were on the podcast, I said I was almost done, but I haven't finished that game. So, done.
I feel you.
And now I'm trying to finish Arceus because I really want to play Horizon Forbidden West, which just came out. When we're recording this podcast, it just came out like 2 days ago. And I would normally jump right on it, but I have so many games that I'm working through right now that, because I'm still have not finished Resident Evil 4 VR. I just haven't picked it up in a while. I just haven't gotten to it. But I really want to start that game. But I just am so tired of having like all these games that I'm trying to get through at the same time. So I'm trying to get the number down.
It's frustrating. And then like I ran into the same problem because like I started S2E4 this week and I really like it. And I really want to play it like all the time.
Right.
But then I think like, well, I've still got Death's Door, which is also really good. I just have to play it.
Yeah, you just haven't played it.
And then I also have Arceus, which is also really good. Mostly. And I just haven't played that either. But this week I have a lot of free time coming my way, so I'm gonna buckle down.
You're gonna put a dent in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a hurting on Death's Door and Arceus. I mean, I intend to finish them, but I'll also probably put a run through on S2E4 at some point because I just really like that game. So who knows what's gonna happen? But I'm gonna play a lot of games.
Well, and it's just been one of those weeks, man.
I'm also gonna play Switch Sports later today.
Oh, yeah. We can't talk about it, though. Don't say too much.
Oh, I don't have anything to say.
You're going to get this video taken down.
I mean, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Nintendo said in the fine print of the Switch Sports online playtest that you can't talk about it online. You can't post, screenshots or screen caps online. But the share button on the Switch is not disabled. So it's like their lawyers better get ready is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, not because of me. I mean, I'm a rule follower.
So what have you been playing this week, though? You got anything besides the things you just talked about?
S2E4, Vampire Survivors, the always present Sea of Thieves.
Right, me too.
I put in a little time on Smash Bros. Ultimate, trying to keep my edge on these kids on the esports team. Don't worry, I still have it. I played a little Mario Kart for the same reason. I did a little bit of a sampling this week.
Yeah, you just were everywhere.
Yeah, but I was playing those like at practice, so...
Well, to bring us to our main topic, which is gaming on PC versus gaming on console, we have both been doing some PC gaming as of late.
We have.
It's kind of a thing that we've started doing, and it's made me think a lot about, how people game, because what I've found through a bunch of our polls and just talking to people online is that a lot of people prefer to play games on PC. Mm-hmm. And I understand why, but I think there are some pros and cons to both. And I'm kind of discovering that I had always been a console gamer, and you had too.
Me too.
And but now that I'm kind of I did dabble into PC gaming. I played, like The Sims and stuff like that. Like, but
Kerbal Space Program.
yeah, like things like that.
Played that once.
I played
or
a
twice.
lot of simulation games, and a lot of those are on PC. So it's not like I never gamed on PC, because I absolutely did. But recently, I've started playing maybe what you might consider to be more like console type games on PC, and kind of comparing that. And you've got this. I don't know if you guys can see it in frame, but over here, Daniel's got his new gaming PC. So obviously, you've been like, doing this.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Let's talk a little bit about the experience gaming on PC. So the first thing I think of is that it's not that different.
Nah, it's not that different. I mean, as long as you have a good PC, like, it shouldn't be that much different,
Right.
I mean, if anything, you should maybe be able to control, have a little more control over your graphical settings or whatnot, and that depends on your PC specs. But no, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference, especially with the next gen consoles being so dang powerful.
Right. Yeah. Like even like a super powerful PC is, the consoles are at least comparable. So there's not that much difference. Where I think as previously PC really, I mean, it still outpaces the consoles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't want to glance over that.
Oh, I can tell my PC runs things better, for sure. But it's so barely,
Right. Yeah. And it just depends. Yeah,
It depends.
absolutely. It just depends. But one thing that we can't ignore is that a lot of people don't have gaming PCs. So they may be trying to game on an underpowered PC, which I'd say is the majority of PCs out there.
That would probably be a miserable experience too.
Yeah. And so I can imagine that those people probably have tried, or maybe they play games on PC, and it's just not great. I think about even me when I was playing. So this would have been, years and years ago, but I was playing Kerbal Space Program on my laptop, and at the time I didn't have it was a time that I didn't have a gaming laptop. It was like the one time in my life I didn't buy a gaming PC or a laptop, and it was still a pretty well-equipped laptop and could run games fine. But if you unplugged it, it would go, you could not change it from going into power save mode. You couldn't adjust it so it ran games horribly unplugged, which is kind of when I was wanting to play on laptop often, I wouldn't have a place to plug it in.
Well, I think that's a common thing. We talked about that recently. I think that's still, fairly prevalent with Windows laptops.
Right.
Not giving you full access to the CPU or whatever when it's unplugged.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think about one of the pros of gaming on console is that you get the same experience everywhere. Everyone who's playing on a PS5, they're going to have the same experience, on the games. And I think that if I was developing a game, I would like knowing that the people who are playing it are getting the right
experience you wanted.
Yeah, the experience, even if it's a compromised experience.
Yeah.
At least you can control the experience.
And you also, you got to take into account, going back to what we just were talking about, everybody who has a PS5 or a Series X or a Series S or even, whatever.
Yeah, whatever that.
If it's unplugged, they're also getting a similar experience to the rest of people who are playing that console unplugged. So it's not. It's
the exact same experience.
So you still have that assurance that people are getting the experience that you intend.
Yeah, that's funny, man. So
Cracked myself up.
I know. So but on PC, another thing that comes up as a kind of a con for gaming on PC that I've run across is that, man, PCs for whatever reason have a lot more variables and random things can pop up.
Of course.
And things can be great. And then all of a sudden something happens and it's just not great anymore.
Yeah. Well,
I don't, and it's strange.
Well, we run into that when we're streaming. It's my PC is plenty strong to to do what we're doing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And my internet is plenty good, but every now and then we still run into bitrate issues, and I just have to restart OBS.
And it's something random. It'll be your antivirus software starts running in the background and like tanks, you know, and like it's like takes over all your CPU or something, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Wolfden, you know, he put out that video recently-ish about that pre-built he bought.
Yeah.
And he even talked about, he was like, you know, one day I started the thing up and I had to do a Windows reinstall because it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You know?
It's stuff like that happens on PC. And I'm not saying like weird things don't happen on console, because I think that they do.
Hashtag red ring of death.
But it's obviously much more rare. Like strange things just happen on PC. It
I don't
seems
know.
like
A lot of weird things happen with rare games.
I'm tired of these. I'm just kidding. You can make your jokes, Daniel. You can make your jokes.
Thanks, man.
Now, one of the great things about gaming on PC is that you have so many games available, like especially indie games and games from unknown developers or lesser known developers, because the only place that they can put their games and know that they're going to be able to get to a large audience is on PC.
Right.
Because they're never going to be able to get them on, like, you know, on the PlayStation stuff, get a physical copy out, you know, and get their name out there.
And you get those early access games as well.
True.
You know, on PC. True. You know, like I'm playing Vampire Survivors and it's in early access right now.
Yeah.
That's something you don't get on PS5.
No, yeah. And PC's getting better and better about, you know, like letting you play the way you want. You can sync up most controllers to PC. You know, you can obviously play keyboard and mouse.
Yep.
And that works really well if you're good at it.
Yeah. We suck at it.
Yeah, I know. But so like there's so many options with PC, which I think is what the main draw is. You know, you can choose what resolution you play in. You know, you can upgrade PCs very easily so that if you want to have better performance, it's your choice. It's not like it's a pre-built console that you really doesn't have any expandability or any ways to make better. So I think for those who like that, who like to have control and they like to have options and they like to, you know, pick and choose what they're exactly doing, I think, you know, PC gaming is very, very appealing for that reason.
Yeah.
So speaking of keyboard and mouse, I'm not good at keyboard and mouse. And we did a poll when we talked about it, and we'll get to that later, but what's your experience with keyboard and mouse?
I mean, I've been using a keyboard and mouse most of my life, but it hasn't exactly been for gaming.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't have a gaming keyboard, for one thing. So, you know, trying to keep my fingers tracked to WASD is, like, impossible on my keyboard.
You have no feedback that tells you that you're in the right spot.
At least for me, anyway. It's impossible because I'm just not good at it. So I play Sea of Thieves with an Xbox controller still, you know, even on PC. And I, you know, don't at me, bro. but that's what I do. Yeah. And I wager that most of you I could still sync. So.
But yeah, I know that there are like.
It's a higher ceiling though if you get good at keyboard and mouse. Like I feel like it's almost objectively better.
I think
we just suck at it.
And I think it just comes down to the, you know, like with a mouse, you have so much control.
Oh, yeah. You're not relying on such fine motor skills, you know, to dial in everything, you know. That's what it all comes down to, I think.
Yeah, the mouse just has so much more finer control. And because it's got such fine control, you can do much quicker movements if you want to. You can set the sensitivity to be crazy and you can like have just... So I get that. But there's a learning curve. And I wonder if there are people who are really good at keyboard and mouse who are bad at controller. Maybe. You know?
I mean...
Is controller easier to learn than keyboard and mouse? Is basically what I'm getting at here.
From my point of view, yes. But that's because I never grew up playing keyboard and mouse. You know?
Right, yeah.
You know, for the kids nowadays that are coming up, you know, and they're maybe more used to playing on PC, like kids at school talk about PCs all the time.
Yeah.
So they may not agree with that. But for us, you know, we grew up in the N64 days. I think for us, we're probably at a disadvantage there.
I think about like my wife, Catherine, who didn't grow up gaming at all. She did have a Game Boy Advance that she played a little bit, but her parents weren't really into getting her games.
What a console.
They had the mindset they would like rot her brain or something.
Man, I love the Game Boy Advance. Anyway, go ahead.
And she, when we first started gaming together, using a controller was not natural to her at all. So I think that but I don't know if putting her on keyboard and mouse would have been, you know, more natural. It may have been. So I just don't know. I would be interested.
Or if it would have been any less natural.
Yeah, I'd be interested in if anybody's if you've had an experience where you did not game And then the first thing you came to was keyboard and mouse. And if it felt very natural, and if controller felt awkward, you know, because I never had that experience because I grew up with an N64 controller in my hand, and that's how I played games.
Right. And, you know, I have heard from like, from like friends that certain people, like Amanda, for instance, who didn't grow up playing a lot of games, she has problems with, like games that you have to control the camera.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
the right
control,
stick.
yeah, with the right stick. She has problems with that. And I found that so weird because I'm so used to it's completely second nature.
Right.
But, you know, I started thinking about it, and I guess if you've never done it, that would be a weird thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. I think that the camera control, because it's, especially for third-person games, you think about it, you're not controlling like the person that you're watching. You're controlling this thing that's like floating behind them, and you're like rotating it around them while you move them and other. So like that is weird.
That is weird.
That is really strange, and that's what you're doing. You know, essentially what you're doing with the mouse on and
it's really weird to me. So like, I
Yeah.
can see, you know, that's my version of that, I guess.
Yeah, it really is. You know, what's really strange is like so many games that I played on PC growing up were these simulation games, and all those games that I loved and played on PC they were pretty much mouse only games. You just like pointed and you clicked and you moved around and you were just clicking things, and you didn't really control the camera. And those types of games I was very used to, and they're very easy to, you know, those are super, super natural. You got to move your thing, Daniel?
Dude, I hate this cord.
Okay.
I've had to fight it like 4 times.
Well, I'm sorry. But that was my experience with PC gaming, and I just never played any games where you had to control the camera. And that was why it feels awkward to me. Now, I was thinking of another, playing on an under-spec'd PC. Now, this is something that I think that probably a lot of people have experience with. And I can imagine that this might not only be bad, but it might like turn you off from gaming in general.
Yeah.
Like if that's what you think, like this is what gaming is playing on an under-spec PC.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want a game if every game you play runs like trash garbage?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I completely see why that would turn somebody if they didn't realize that was the problem.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's happened.
I'm sure it has. And then that brings me to the next con I was thinking of, which is that getting into PC gaming is more expensive than getting into console gaming.
Oh, heck yeah, it is.
Yeah, much more expensive.
Yes.
And that to me is like, it kind of creates like like we're not just talking about PC versus console anymore. It's kind of becomes a class system, because people who can afford to game on PC and get a good experience are gonna think of themselves in different ways than people who can't.
Not necessarily.
They might.
That
I'm saying they
depends on
might.
the person. You know, it's kind of like the same. It's the same thing as like the green bubble, blue bubble problem, man.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing. Like if you're the kind of person who looks down on people for causing you to see green bubbles, you're probably the same kind of person who would look down on somebody who can't afford a PC, and we're probably not friends.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. So like, but I don't want to like not recognize that as being a thing that happens.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
I think that like part of the PC master race like argument is not just that the PC can be better.
Yeah,
I think that there is a
little bit of
classism in there, and I'm not saying that like is it's just a thing.
Yeah,
it's just a thing that I think is a real thing.
You know, you're right. If we don't acknowledge it, we'll never be able to fix it.
But that being said, if you game on PC exclusively, I'm not saying that you're classist in any way, because I'm not saying that. But I think that there is inherently built into it a thing, because it's much more expensive. I mean, like, just like full transparency. Okay, let's imagine that you are getting an Xbox Series X or a PS5. We know those cost $500. That's how much they cost.
Yep.
But to get a PC that's $500,
you ain't playing Sea of Thieves.
you're not playing. If you can show me a PC that is a gaming, like a comparable PC at $500, it's just not there. In fact, I would say you probably can't even find a comparable PC at $1,000.
Probably not. And, you know, I'm not experienced with the whole, like, building your own PC thing. I know that the market's really messed up now.
Yeah, it is.
Back in the day when that was the thing and you saved a lot more money doing that, I don't know how much that would come out to. Like, I don't know what kind of savings you were really looking at, you know? Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. I think even at $1,000, you would be hard pressed.
No, exactly. I really do think you would be. And you and I both own gaming PCs.
Yeah.
And, you know, we enjoy them and we're lucky enough to be able to afford them. And, you know, but I think that neither of us have the mindset that PC gaming is the only way to do this.
No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's completely ridiculous.
No. In fact, I still majority play on console. Like the most of my games, I do play Sea of Thieves on PC. But that's only because it's really convenient to play it on PC.
With the Discord and all, like just it all works together really well on PC, which is a huge pro.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm not, you know, the more I play PC, the more I like it, and the more that, like, if a game comes out day and date on everything, like I might lean towards PC. But here is the thing: I'm a collector.
Yeah,
and now it's not saying that physical games don't come out on PC, because they do. You can get physical games on PC, but it's like
I don't have a way of putting them in my PC.
fraction of a fraction. You don't have a disk drive on your PC?
No.
Oh my gosh. Brand new PC doesn't. Well, I mean, I get it. You don't need a disk drive anymore. Mine does have it. My gaming PC is old now. It's 5 years old, and it does have a disk drive on it. But okay, let's just say for you, like unless you buy an external disk drive and put in physical media, there's no physical. You have no physical ownership. You just have a digital ownership of this game, which is not even really ownership.
No, it's not. And we're seeing that now, you know, with the Nintendo yanking the eShops for 3DS and Wii U.
Yeah. It's just like...
You're right.
The digital, like that digital only future thing scares me.
It's a scary thing.
Like, and maybe that's just me being old school.
That's why we need to support those publishers, you know, that are still putting out those physical copy games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, like... if you like the games, you shouldn't just buy it just because.
Search it out physically.
Well, I mean, like
I bought Hades. I mean, I may get laughed at for this, but I bought Hades twice. I bought it once digitally, and I got it on sale.
Okay.
But then I did track down a physical copy because I love that game so much that I want to have it. I don't want Nintendo to close the eShop one day and me not be able to play Hades on Switch.
Right. I mean, like. We're starting to see that, though. Like, that if you own a game digitally, the time period that you own it, you know, we don't really know.
It's a long-term rental.
It's a long-term rental. It really is. Because eventually the servers are going to go down if you don't have it on your machine. Or let's say you do have it on your machine. Let's say even best case scenario, you have it downloaded on your PC or whatever. That PC's not going to last you forever. Your console's not going to. Eventually it's going to die. Yep. Or something's going to happen and you're going to lose it and you're not going to be able to re-download it. And then it's like...
And then the people who bought the game physically just get to sit over there and laugh.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's... And plus, I just like collecting things. You know? I just like to have it in my collection. I like to, after I'm done playing, I like to have this physical thing that I can be like, this is that game I love, you know?
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, you did.
Do you have that many games?
I have a number. I have a number of games. I should do one day, do a little tour of my game collection. It's not that impressive.
No, it's not like a whole room or anything.
No.
But it's a lot of games.
It's a lot of games. And I have games from my, you know, I keep them from my childhood. I've got, you know, N64 games, Super Nintendo games. You know, I've got like all of them. But not all of them, because there are some that I went through a phase where I sold games or traded them.
I think we all did.
Yeah, and I really wish I hadn't done that.
We didn't know. I mean,
what do you do?
I had a copy of Metroid Fusion for Game Boy Advance, and I guess I traded it in because I have no idea where it is, and I've looked, and that's sad.
I have so many games like that I can't remember what I did with them, but I was really into guitar stuff, so at that time, so I really wanted to like trade some of my gaming stuff for music things. So it wasn't like it was a bad investment because, you know, guitar is what I mostly do for a living now.
Yeah.
Or pretty much exclusively. So
It's paying for you to buy those games back now.
Right,
That's okay.
right. It's all coming around. So,
Well, we've talked quite a bit about PC.
yeah.
And I want to bring up this poll real quick. So
Yeah.
we did ask the people, the gaming gig loyal, the G&G folks, what's the best platform for indie games? Mm-hmm. Randy, do you know what overwhelmingly won?
PC overwhelmingly won. And I
PC.
knew it would. And I
Yeah.
knew it would. Yeah.
66% of the vote.
Yeah. And I mean, indie games are, like, if you're making an indie game and you can't get it anywhere else, you can get it on PC. You can like put it on PC for people to play. So that makes total sense. I mean, like it is the indie king. I mean, yeah. And then beyond that, I thought that maybe closer to PC than it actually was would be Switch, but Switch was second place.
Yep.
With 17% of the vote.
Yeah. And I was torn as well, when I was thinking about it. I love playing indie games on my Switch.
Me too.
Because a lot of those indie games are, more retro styled. Maybe they're 2D or maybe they're top-down 3D or whatever, but they're not as graphically intensive a lot of the time. And Switch runs them really well, and they feel great handheld.
And you can play them in handheld, right?
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Like, you can play it in handheld. That is like the whole draw of being able to play these games on Switch.
Yeah.
And you can play them in handheld without having an internet connection,
Yes.
Which is just really cool.
Yeah. I played so much Hades in handheld. Yeah. It's just super fun.
And then after that, we the other two options were Xbox and PlayStation. And Xbox was at 10, PlayStation was at 8. Those I figured would be the lowest. And really, when you think about like indies do come to both those consoles. They do. But they kind of have to have some traction first, generally. They're not like brand new, no one knows about an indie dropping on the Xbox store or the PlayStation store. Like it happens, but I don't think people go to those consoles looking out those types of experiences generally.
No. And if you're on Xbox and you have Game Pass, and a lot of those indies do eventually come to Game Pass, they may not stay forever, but that is a good place to play them.
Yeah, and I think that's why Xbox won, edged out PlayStation a little bit because of that reason, because a Game Pass does have a lot of great indies on it. Yeah, and this kind of makes me think of like gaming on console in general does have some inherent pros over playing on a PC. One we talked about, like it's a controlled experience, but then also beyond that, it's a shared experience that you have with other people because you kind of build these communities around the PlayStation or the Xbox or the Switch, and I think that's a big part of it. Whereas PC, it definitely has that, but it doesn't feel as like a community in the same way.
It doesn't to us. I don't want to say that it couldn't, because I just don't think we've done it as much as some other people.
That's true.
And I will say that one thing that I think is really cool about like Steam or Epic Game Store, I'll talk about Steam because that's the one I've spent the most time on. You can have friends on Steam and you could actually, gift them a game, and I guess
you probably can do that.
Can you do that on console?
Probably.
Anyway, I just think that's cool, and I also I went to Vampire Survivors and I saw the review that one of my buddies wrote, so there is still community aspects. I just think maybe we don't know where they are yet.
Well, I think that the community is more tied to the like things like Steam and
to the platform,
like to the particular platform on the PC and not the PC itself.
Yeah,
because
I could agree with that.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe that is the PC experience, maybe that the actual hardware that you're playing on, like there's not a big community around, we both have Omens.
Yeah.
And those are, HP gaming PCs.
Oh man, the Omen community is rabid.
You know what I mean? It's not like there's a whole community around that because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're playing on. Right. It's really more about what your specs are and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just something to think about. Now, we had another poll, too, that we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is what we were talking about earlier, which is about what are you better at, mouse and keyboard or controller? And so I'm a little torn on this poll, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me why, Randy.
Because it was fairly split, and I expected it to be this one to be one that was kind of right down the middle, and it was more or less. But I wonder how, when you ask someone what they're better at, it's they're judging themselves, and I don't know if you're going to get a true answer, because you're going to pick what you want to think you're better at, or
what do you want people to think you're better at.
Right. So I wonder here. But so the question was, what are you better at using, mouse and keyboard or controller? And 57% of people said mouse and keyboard, and 43%, that's the math, 43% said that they were better at controller.
And old Jimmy S. Chimed in and said he's better with his conscience. Actually, he may have been asking if we have a conscience. Anyway.
No, we don't. We don't have one.
No, we don't, Jimmy S. And go play your Atari.
So, yeah. Now, that's being said, I'm really looking at it from my point of view, and I'm looking at like all the people I grew up with, like anyone who is like, mid to late 20s, early 30s, around that age. I suspect that they're probably still better at gaming on a controller.
I mean, most of our friends are.
Unless they've spent a lot of time on keyboard and mouse. But I could imagine that a lot of the younger people who maybe, if they really are gaming on PC more, yeah, you're going to be better at it.
And there's also like certain games that lend themselves better to the to the keyboard and mouse or the controller. Like, like I've been talking about Hades today. So, most people say play Hades on a controller because it gives you access to just a more finer control over your motion, basically.
Right.
Whereas if you're using, WASD, you're kind of bound to that because Hades isn't one of those control the camera kind of things.
Right.
So I think it also just kind of depends on what you're playing. Like when I was getting into Vampire Survivors, Tyler was like, hey, you should probably play this on controller. So he may have tried it both ways.
See, I played the Vampire Survivors demo on the browser, and I did it with WASD.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What'd you like?
Actually,
what'd you think about it?
Now that I think about it, it may have been the up,
Arrow
down,
keys?
left arrow keys. Yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah.
What did I think about it?
Yeah.
I honestly only played it for about like 5-10 minutes. Max.
I didn't know you played it.
Yeah, I played it.
Super. I love that game.
It was cool. Yeah, I was playing the demo, but even then I didn't get through what the demo offered.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the deepest experience I've ever had in a game, don't get me wrong, but it's pretty addicting.
Yeah. So most people say that they're better at mouse and keyboard, which makes sense when you have that. On every poll we do, if we ask about PC, the majority of people say that they prefer to play on PC. They like to pick up games on PC. So it makes sense that they would be better at mouse and keyboard. But then again, almost half the people say that they're better at controller.
Yeah.
So I'd say, and our poll size wasn't huge on this. It's not like we had thousands and thousands and thousands of people vote on it.
200 votes.
I think that the more people we would have got, I think that we would have found that it was pretty evenly, right down the middle. And I can usually tell if a poll's going to be like straight down the middle, and this is one I thought would be.
Yeah.
In fact, I may have even thought that maybe controller maybe the numbers would have flipped. Like maybe controller would have been slightly higher than keyboard and mouse.
Yeah. Well, that may be our bias showing.
Yeah. And you got to admit when you have a bias, because we grew up console gamers. Yeah. I mean, we just did.
So, speaking of our bias towards console gaming, do we want to talk about some comments?
Let's do it. Let's talk about some.
We just want to dive in here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, we got an interesting comment a couple days back from Sir Spence. And I'm just going to read it. I'm actually surprised you mentioned PC. So far, it seems like you do everything you can to avoid acknowledging it as a gaming platform. He goes on to say, honestly, I've been contemplating for a while now unsubbing because of this, just been too lazy to figure out. And you don't put out quite enough content to spam my subs. I certainly haven't been interested enough in the content. Anyway, gets a little salty. Not sure when that evaluation will change, though. If you're at least acknowledging it, that seems like a step in the right direction. So, well, I'm not going to say that this podcast was in response to that because it wasn't directly. No. But we need to do better, Randy.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. And what I said in reply to this comment holds true. It's like, everyone here at Gaming Gig, so me and Daniel and then Nick as well, we all grew up gaming on console. Mm-hmm. And to this day, we still primarily game on console.
Yep.
You know, like
it's
Daniel,
what we know. It's what we
it's
love.
what we know. It's what we know. Me and Daniel, we both we want to have the PS5s and the Series X and the Switch. Like we've got all those things. When the Switch OLED came out, we got that too because we love the consoles. Yeah. It's not just about gaming. It's also about nostalgia and, like
comfort.
There's a lot of things that go into it, right?
Yeah. And
when we were kids, there were PCs, but guys, when we were kids,
back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, Old Man Dobson.
PC gaming was a thing, but like all the games that were on PC were very different games than were on console. And I did play PC games as a kid, but it just wasn't the same. It wasn't like it is today, where you can play God of War on your PC and you can play it on, your PlayStation.
Yeah, we were ripping up that Roller Coaster Tycoon. Like, don't think we weren't.
There wasn't this crossover, and I think that the crossover between now that like the same games are on both, it really makes this conversation we're having of like gaming on PC versus gaming on console. It makes it a much more nuanced, conversation. Whereas back in the day, it was like gaming on PC versus gaming on console was just all about like, what games are you playing? Like, cause and also the games on PC were usually not, they just weren't the same types of experiences.
It wasn't the same kind of thing. Not going to say better or worse.
It wasn't the same at all.
It wasn't the same.
And so you really couldn't have this argument. It was like, if you were into Age of Empires, you played PC.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to play your Marios, you played on console. Mm-hmm. That was just the way it was.
Mario, shout out to Wolf Den. If you're watching, Bob.
So yeah, I mean, the content that we're gonna make is the stuff that is true to us and the stuff that we're interested in. And if we get excited about console, okay, we get excited about console.
And we're excited about PC right now as well.
And that's the thing is like, that's what was so funny about this comment is like that in the past month or so, both of us have been super excited about PC gaming. Mm-hmm. So it felt really weird to get a comment being like, you guys try to ignore PC as much as you can.
Yeah.
Which, it's like, I mean, I get that, like, the dude also admitted that he hadn't watched any of our stuff in the past month. So,
and this comment hit like the day after a quick little PC short. That
you had done like a review or something on a PC game like that very day, or maybe the day before. It's like, okay.
So it's all good. We had a good laugh out of that comment, though. We really did.
No, I from having a YouTube channel for the past I think I started the original channel. Which Gaming Gig became. I started as a gaming channel where I did Kerbal Space Program videos. And I started that back in, I want to say it was like 2013, somewhere around there, 2014. I don't know. So it's been almost 10 years that the channel's been, that I've started, done gaming content. And then I moved away from gaming content. But that's kind of another story for another day.
Yeah.
But through all the years of making YouTube content, like salty comments, like, that's just YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
And if you're the Sir Spence, if you're watching this, and it's not a slight against anyone who, it's not like we want anyone to come up and like yell at you for making salty comments.
No, absolutely not.
That's no
hard feeling. In fact, after your very polite response, he did get back to us and say he's glad to hear it.
Right.
So, and water under the bridge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's just something, it's just one of those things. YouTube comments are going to be YouTube comments, aren't they? So, Daniel, that kind of brings us to the end here. I think we've pretty much covered it. To kind of recap, we like gaming on PC. We're pretty excited about it right now.
As soon as Randy leaves my house, I'm going to do it, as a matter of fact.
Right. So, maybe more PC content in the future. Maybe we can, as we get more excited about it and as we get interested in it, who knows?
Absolutely.
Who knows?
We'll do whatever we want to do. We'll do what makes us happy.
That's right.
We'll do what we're excited about.
Well, guys, until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.